Racing and absolute luxury are what shaped Bentley, a brand that claimed 5 victories at Le Mans in just 7 years. Bentley builds coupes weighing over 2.2 tons that can sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds, like a grand mansion suddenly launching off the line. These machines are big, solid, and opulent, like living rooms on wheels. Yet beneath the handcrafted wood veneer lies an engine powerful enough to pull a freight car. Some versions feature a massive W12 engine, drinking fuel like a heavy-duty truck, yet running so smoothly you can whisper to the person beside you at highway speeds and be heard clearly. On the racetrack, Bentley once defeated lighter, supposedly quicker machines, not through delicacy, but through brute force and astonishing durability. On the road, it became the symbol of those who want to drive like racers without sacrificing an ounce of luxury. So how did a car company born from the ambition to win evolve into a symbol of understated power and speed wrapped in velvet? In this video, we'll explore 12 Bentley models, 12 evolutions of aristocratic performance, where each generation became not only more luxurious, but faster, heavier, and more commanding. And in the end, the question isn't how powerful a Bentley is, but how something as refined as a private lounge can still move like a rocket. Bentley was not born from glamour. It didn't begin on a red carpet. It began with W. O. Bentley, a man who looked at a car the way an engineer looks at a machine that must work, not a trophy to be admired. In the early 20th century, cars broke down often, roads were rough, and the greatest fear wasn't that a car would be slow, but that it wouldn't make it home at all. During World War I, W.O. helped develop the Bentley rotary aero engines, power plants respected for their strength and reliability, the kind that had to run continuously without the luxury of failure. That wartime mindset went straight into Bentley's DNA. The engine had to be powerful, durable, and capable of going the distance. There's one small but decisive detail. After the war, W.O. was awarded an MBE and received £8,000 from the government's Commission on Awards to Inventors, the capital that allowed him to start his company. On July 10, 1919, Bentley Motors was founded with a declaration that wasn't dressed up or romantic. We were going to make a fast car, a good car, the best in its class. In other words, Bentley declared war on market skepticism, not with advertising, but with engineering quality and endurance. And to prove those words weren't just a slogan, Bentley needed a first car substantial enough to put its name firmly on the map. Bentley 3-liter, the true beginning, and the victory that made Europe pay attention in 1921. Bentley introduced the 3-liter with proportions that were unmistakably mechanical era. Tall bodywork, slender wheels, open top, the chassis and hardware laid out with unapologetic honesty. The long, straight hood made it feel as though the car had been built around the engine, not around glamour. At the time, buyers typically commissioned their bodies from independent coach builders, so the 3-liter wasn't just a model. It was a platform capable of becoming many different shapes, each owner with a distinct style, but all sharing the same engineering core. The numbers give the story real weight. 1,622 cars were produced between 1921 and 1929. Not many, but enough for Bentley to build genuine credibility. Then came the drama at Le Mans. In 1923, John Duff and Frank Clement took a Bentley to the race. By 1924, W.O. Bentley, initially skeptical of the whole endeavor, ultimately decided to back Duff with factory support for a return attempt. The result, victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1924. For a young British manufacturer, winning in France wasn't just a race result. It was a shift in perception. The way the car was prepared reflected Bentley's mindset, pragmatic and disciplined. 4-wheel brakes, protective mesh over the headlights, fuel tank shielding to reduce the risk of stone damage. Bentley didn't win through theatrics. It won through something that sounds almost dry, but is incredibly persuasive: durability and engineering rigor. But victory created a new kind of pressure. Once you've won, the market expects more. It expected Bentley to be faster, And from that expectation, one of the most intense internal debates of the pre-war era began inside Bentley. Bentley 4.5-liter, supercharged up front, and a civil war over speed, 1929 to 1930. One look at the 4.5-liter blower, and you know exactly what it is. The supercharger sits exposed at the very front, a raw block of metal hanging off the nose, turning the car's face into something openly aggressive. Long body, visible chassis elements, side-mounted spare wheels, everything engineered around one clear objective: force in more air, extract more speed. But what made the blower legendary wasn't just its appearance. It was the philosophical divide it created. The project was closely associated with Tim Birkin, who championed the supercharged approach: boost it, push it, make it faster. On the other side stood W.O. Bentley, firmly rooted in his engineering doctrine: build it right, build it strong, win through endurance. This wasn't a minor disagreement. It was a defining tension inside Bentley at the time: race to win now, or race to win for the long haul. The production numbers were tiny, but enough to forge a legend: 54 supercharged road cars and just 4 team blower cars built specifically for racing. So few that each car almost feels like it has its own personality. And the blower's cultural gravity endured far beyond its racing results, even becoming part of popular mythology, with the supercharged 4.5-liter frequently associated with James Bond. But in endurance racing, noise and outright speed don't always equal victory. Bentley still needed a machine that was not only fast, but disciplined, one capable of dominating Le Mans without theatrics. That machine would be the Speed 6. Bentley Speed 6. When Bentley turned Le Mans into home turf, 1928 to 1930. If the blower was Bentley driven by raw instinct, the Speed 6 was Bentley at its most disciplined and dominant. Its hood stretched forward like an endless straight line. The radiator grille stood tall and upright, and the body looked compact yet forceful. Even at rest, it felt heavy, solid, unshakable. This was Bentley building a true racing machine, not flashy, just devastatingly effective. 2 milestones sealed its legacy: victories at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1929 and again in 1930. And in 1929, there's one detail that still makes people pause. Bentley finished first, second, third, and fourth overall, a rare quadruple sweep, the kind of result that needs no further explanation. At that moment, the Roaring '20s were at peak confidence. The Bentley boys turned victory into a lifestyle: elegant, fast, and unapologetically extravagant.
Darling,
but history always delivers a cold correction. Not long after the 1929 racing season, the world was hit by the economic shock of the Great Depression, and the market for expensive automobiles shrank dramatically. And at that exact moment, the high point just before the drop, Bentley unveiled its most ambitious car yet, the 8-liter. Bentley 8-liter, the engineering peak before the fall, 1930. The 8-liter embodied the full pre-war spirit: long, heavy, and imposing, like a yacht set down on asphalt. The hood seemed to stretch across nearly half the car, the cabin pushed far to the rear. The proportions alone declared its status. This was the highest tier. It didn't need excessive ornamentation. Its authority came from mass, balance, and mechanical confidence. The technical ambition was unmistakable. Bentley set out to build a grand tourer that could run fast yet remain smooth, solid, and effortless over long distances. A car that could cross countries without fatiguing its driver. But the cruel irony lies in the numbers. Only 100 examples were produced between 1930 and 1932. The listed chassis price was around £1,850, deliberately set higher than its direct rival, the Rolls-Royce Phantom II, to assert its superiority. But after the 1929 crash and the onset of the Great Depression, capital evaporated and public attitudes toward luxury shifted overnight. No matter how exceptional a car might be, it couldn't outpace economic reality. The ending was stark. In 1931, Rolls-Royce acquired Bentley Motors for £125,275. A brand born from the pursuit of speed was forced into new ownership at the very moment it had produced its technical masterpiece. The question that followed was inevitable. Once Bentley lost its independence, could it still preserve that spirit of elegant speed? The answer would emerge in the post-war era with the R-Type Continental. Bentley R-Type Continental. Post-war Europe needed a future. Bentley offered elegant speed. In the years after the war, Europe was rebuilding. Roads were being repaired, trade was slowly recovering, and society remained sensitive to overt displays of excess. A fast car could easily be seen as too much. The R-Type Continental arrived with a subtle but powerful statement. It would be fast, but discreet. Its fastback coupe design swept smoothly into the rear, the body flowing as one continuous form, with minimal creases and almost no unnecessary ornamentation. It looked like an object shaped by the wind itself. This was beauty without noise, elegance defined by proportion, clean surfaces, and the sense of speed delivered without straying. The numbers are what turned it into an icon. Just 208 examples were built between 1952 and 1955. Bentley described it as the fastest four-seater production car in the world at the time, with a top speed of around 120 miles per hour. Priced at roughly £7,300 including tax, among the most expensive cars on the market, it was never meant to sell in volume. It was built to prove that Bentley could still create a high-speed Grand Tourer that could be driven daily, carry 4 adults comfortably, and remain impeccably refined. But by the 1960s, the automotive world was changing. Standardized production, new expectations for comfort and safety, modernization became unavoidable. The challenge was this: modernize too quickly and you risk losing your identity. That chapter would be written with the T-Series. Bentley T-Series, radical modernization, and the risk of losing identity in 1965, Bentley introduced the T-Series at a moment when the automotive industry was entering a new era. Monocoque construction, improved comfort, enhanced safety, and true industrial-scale production. The T-Series looked disciplined and restrained. Flat front fascia, upright grille, square proportions. It perfectly reflected the spirit of the 1960s. Order, practicality, and a wealthy clientele shifting from flamboyant display to long-term ownership. Technically, this was a major transition. Bentley moved away from its traditional body-on-frame construction and embraced a more modern unibody structure. But the real drama lay elsewhere. The T-Series was almost a twin to the Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow, a much more widely recognized name. And that sparked an uncomfortable question. If everything looks nearly identical, what truly distinguishes a Bentley? The numbers show this wasn't just perception. A total of 1,868 first-generation T-Series cars were built. The pre-tax list price was around £5,425. Performance was strong for its time. A top speed of roughly 115 miles per hour and 0 to 62 miles per hour in about 10.9 seconds. Respectable, even impressive. Yet it still lived in the shadow of its more famous sibling. And when a brand begins to blur, the only way to sharpen it again is to return to its roots, to build a car that reminds people Bentley isn't just about luxury, but about power and driving character. The car that arrived to do exactly that was the Turbo R. Bentley Turbo R. Bentley returns to its roots. Power, speed, and driving feel. The Turbo R arrived in 1985 at the height of the 1980s culture of visible wealth. Booming finance, bold status symbols, and luxury cars that were no longer meant to glide quietly in the background. They had to project authority. The Turbo R was still a large sedan, but its stance told a different story. It sat lower and more planted, with a wider track and a heavier, more purposeful presence. It didn't float down the road, it gripped it. The key lies in the letter R. It didn't stand for decoration. It stood for road holding. a deliberate statement that this Bentley was engineered to handle, to stay composed at speed, to feel controlled rather than softly detached like a traditional luxury saloon. This was Bentley's direct answer to the identity question. The brand didn't need to shout, but it needed to demonstrate strength. And the numbers show this wasn't a tentative experiment. Between 1985 and 1997, 7,230 turbo models were produced. That's significant volume for a hand-built luxury performance sedan of its era. The Turbo R accomplished exactly what Bentley needed at that moment. It pulled the brand away from the perception of being overly reserved and restored its rightful position. A luxury car with genuine driving character and understated authority. From here, Bentley moved into its next chapter. With its identity reclaimed, the new question became, how do you step into the era of globalization without losing your distinctly British character? Bentley Continental R, a coupe as a solid block of authority. Perfectly 1990s and 1991, Bentley introduced the Continental R, the kind of car that feels substantial even before the engine starts. The 1990s were an era when wealth became more openly displayed. Fortunes expanded, a new generation of entrepreneurs emerged, and a luxury car was no longer just transportation. It was a way to enter a room without needing much introduction. The Continental R delivered exactly that. 2 doors, broad bodywork, muscular rear haunches, taut lines, a long hood that suggested power being drawn forward. The front end stood tall and upright, wearing Bentley's large signature grille with twin round headlamps set deep into the fascia. It didn't need to look aggressive. The proportions alone conveyed authority. What made the Continental R unmistakably Bentley was its restraint. It didn't shout, yet it naturally made others lower their voices. The power here didn't come from noise. It came from scale and mass, from the immediate understanding that this was built to occupy the upper tier. The numbers reinforce the point. Produced from 1991 to 2002, just 1,548 examples were built. Limited, expensive, and intentionally exclusive, very much the Bentley way. And it set up an important question for the next chapter. As globalization accelerated and markets expanded, how would a brand built on being rare and costly adapt? The answer would arrive in the form of a sedan introduced at a pivotal corporate turning point, the Arnage. Bentley Arnage. A car positioned at a corporate turning point in 1998, the Arnage arrived like a car standing between 2 eras. On one side was traditional Bentley, hand-built craftsmanship, heritage rooted in crew, and a distinctly British standard, discreet, meticulous, uncompromising. On the other side was the late-century industrial shift, when major automotive groups began acquiring luxury marques. The rules had changed. To survive long-term, a brand needed capital, technology, and scale. The Arnage carried the shape of classic authority. An upright grille, a long, substantial body, thick surfaces, a roofline tall enough to create the feeling of a drawing room on wheels. This was a sedan built to carry presence, not chase lap times. It told its occupants, you no longer need to prove anything. But the real drama unfolded behind the scenes. 1998 marked the beginning of a new chapter in ownership and investment. Ultimately, Volkswagen Group took control of Bentley Motors, ushering in an era of significant product development and factory investment. Put simply, Bentley survived the 20th century not on prestige alone, but by pivoting at the right moments. The Arnage was that bridge, visually and spiritually rooted in old Bentley, yet placing one foot firmly into an era in which the company would need to build cars capable of carrying the brand onto the global stage. Bentley Continental GT, the car that pulled Bentley into the modern spotlight in 2003, the Continental GT arrived with a clear statement. Bentley would not merely survive, it would accelerate into the modern era in both product and global reach. Its design marked a sharp departure from the upright sedans that came before. The roofline flowed seamlessly into the rear, the haunches were muscular and taut, and the body felt dense and planted. a coupe that looked built for crossing continents without fatigue. Up front, it retained Bentley's DNA, a large matrix grille and twin round headlamps. But as a whole, this was a Bentley shaped by globalization, traditionally luxurious, yet unmistakably 21st century. The numbers cement its impact. By 2021, the Crewe factory had produced the 80,000th Continental GT. For a mass-market car, 80,000 units might not seem extraordinary. For Bentley, it was transformative. The Continental GT became the backbone of the brand's modern era, a car authentic enough to preserve Bentley's identity, yet global enough to dramatically expand its scale. But as wealthy buyers around the world began shifting their preferences, another question emerged. If luxury customers now wanted SUVs, what would Bentley do? The answer, impossible to ignore, was the Bentayga. Bentley Bentayga. Bentley enters the SUV era because sitting it out wasn't an option in 2015. Bentley unveiled the Bentayga with a direct message. The brand would play by the new rules, but it would remain unmistakably Bentley. By that point, SUVs were no longer a passing trend. They had become the default lifestyle choice for wealthy buyers worldwide. Higher seating position, generous space, and the versatility to handle everything. Business meetings, weekend escapes, family duties, long-distance travel. The Bentayga kept a clearly recognizable Bentley face. The large upright grille, the twin round headlamps set deep into the fascia, a substantial hood conveying mass and presence. No one would mistake it for anything else, but its proportions fully embraced SUV language. Upright stance, elevated ride height, broad shoulders, and a widened rear track that gave it planted confidence. Importantly, Bentley didn't build an SUV to chase fashion. It built one because the market had shifted decisively. Ignoring the segment would have meant excluding itself from the fastest growing group of global luxury customers. The numbers showed just how precisely timed the move was. Bentley reported that its entire 2016 production allocation sold out rapidly after launch. For a company built on producing few but expensive, selling out planned production in advance was a clear signal. Bentley had entered the segment at exactly the right moment. But Bentley also understood something critical. If it chased volume alone, it risked losing the handcrafted pinnacle that defines its soul. So after the Bentayga secured commercial strength, the company returned to what it does best when it wants to remind the world of true craftsmanship. Coach-built masterpieces like the Bentley Bacala and the Bentley Batter. Bentley Bacala, Bentley Batter. The return of coach building and the final chapter of the W12, 2020 to 2022. After the Bentayga proved that Bentley could win under the new rules, the brand returned to something few manufacturers can truly execute: extreme, highly individualized coach-built cars. The Bacala was created by Mulliner, Bentley's in-house bespoke division, and limited to just 12 cars. That number alone makes the intention clear. This wasn't about expanding market share. It was about demonstrating that Bentley still possesses a level of craftsmanship that money alone cannot easily replicate elsewhere. The Bacala followed a two-seat Barchetta philosophy: long proportions, bold surfaces, sharply defined lines. One look tells you this isn't a configurable production model. It's a product of time, patience, and meticulous handcraft. Then came the Batter in 2022, also built by Mulliner and limited to just 18 examples. Bentley positioned the Batter as the beginning of a new design language: a cleaner front end, stronger proportions, and a stance that feels compressed and powerful, visually preparing the brand for an electrified future. But the most important element lies beneath the surface. The Batter marks the final chapter of Bentley's W12 engine era. Bentley announced it would end W12 production in April 2024, by which point more than 100,000 W12 engines will have been hand-assembled in Crewe. That means the Bacala and Batter are not merely rare and beautiful. They are punctuation marks, closing statements on a form of mechanical authority that defined modern Bentley for decades. And that leads to the final question. As electrification becomes an unavoidable rule of the industry, how will Bentley preserve its core formula: speed, craftsmanship, endurance? without needing to shout? That is the next concept chapter. 2055-2075. 3 future concepts. Clear, practical, no vague jargon. Concept 1. 2055 Bentley Quiet Pressure Lounge. Luxury as environmental control. In the future, Bentley may no longer define luxury simply as leather and wood. It will sell a state of being. You step inside, your body relaxes, your mind quiets, and long journeys no longer leave you drained. Why do even modern luxury EVs still make people tired? Because of low-frequency vibration and road noise from tires and pavement. You don't clearly hear it, but your body absolutely feels it. The Quiet Pressure Lounge addresses this with 2 clear layers. 1. Tuned structural materials. The body and cabin materials are engineered specifically to block the exact vibration frequencies that cause fatigue. In simple terms, the structure is tuned to filter out the kinds of movement that wear you down. 2. Active vibration cancellation. The car generates counter vibrations in real time through the floor, seats, and pillars, neutralizing road-induced movement before it reaches passengers. Batteries will still be heavy, but if charging becomes more seamless along major travel routes, for example, wireless charging at designated stops or embedded charging lanes on primary highways, then luxury returns to its true purpose. Travel far, travel long, and step out feeling alert instead of exhausted. Concept 2. 2065 Bentley Aero Skin Continental. Speed through shape, not showmanship. If the Bentley Continental GT defined modern Bentley, the 2065 Evolution would win through pure engineering logic, shape that adapts to conditions. Instead of large, visible wings for stability, the body surface itself would subtly reshape in movements measured in millimeters to optimize airflow. At lower speeds, the surface minimizes drag, reduces wind noise, and maximizes efficiency. At higher speeds, the surface subtly alters its form to increase stability and road grip. The goal isn't to showcase technology. The goal is the Bentley feeling. A car that feels substantial yet glides, fast yet composed, and most importantly, never needs noise or theatrics to prove its speed. Concept 3. 2075 Bentley Mulliner Morph Cabin. Coach building as experience. Designed by 2075, coach building may no longer mean customizing exterior panels. It may mean tailoring how you live inside the vehicle. The Morph Cabin would feature a modular interior that transforms into 3 clear modes. Meeting mode: upright seating, focused lighting, enhanced privacy. Rest mode: reclined seating, dimmed lighting, reduced sensory stimulation. Cinema mode: optimized audio, positioning, immersive screen layout, advanced exterior sound isolation. The vehicle would automatically optimize routing based on weather, traffic density, road surface quality, and charging schedules, not to replace the driver for novelty, but to perform the most refined function of luxury: reduce cognitive load, reduce shock and fatigue, deliver you on time, in the calmest possible way. If electrification becomes the unavoidable rule of the future, Bentley's advantage will not be loudness or spectacle. It will be control of environment, of movement, and of how you feel when you arrive. Born from a pursuit of speed, brought down by economic forces, and then rebuilt in the era of globalization, Bentley has held its position not by always chasing the newest technology first, but by holding to its principles. Performance must be matched by craftsmanship. Power must be discreet, yet measurable in quality. Bentley doesn't need to shout, yet somehow, the entire street lowers its voice when one passes by.